We have discussed previously who was going to be representing Auburn. Obviously, Coach Hugh Freeze. Your other representatives were offensive center Connor Liu. We also had returning Keldrick Falk from our defensive line, and then Jackson Arnold, as we discussed. Probably not a shock that he would come, especially this should be the indicator that he's the starting quarterback. So let's start right there, Austin. I mean, is that the indicator that he's the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big indicator there. Don't think there's much to be surprised around. As long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be the first one taking snaps for Auburn and Waco, and it certainly seemed like from his teammates talking about it and Coach Freeze talking about it, they have all the confidence in the world in him.
So we are not entering fall camp with a quarterback controversy in your mind?
No. Nope.
Okay. I just want to make that very clear because I'm still getting asked that to this day.
Sure
like
you are.
People continue to ask me, who's the starting quarterback going to be? I'm like, guys, where you been? This has been done for a while. It feels, I will always say this until I hear the words starter and Jackson Arnold leave Hugh Freeze's mouth, which it very rarely does. He doesn't like to do that traditional type of openly naming someone in those phrases, but I just will always leave that room for error. But all the tea leaves show you that Jackson Arnold is going to be the starting quarterback. What did anything stick out to you this week from his conversations? I know we got to talk mainly about what Hugh discussed, but anything about Jackson Arnold and what you saw from interviews stick out to you?
Well, I think he talked highly about his time at Oklahoma and talked about how it just really needed to be a change of pace for him, a change of scenery. I thought, he spoke the obvious and said that it was very clear to him what kind of talent level Auburn had in the wide receiver room, and that was appealing to him. Talked a lot about how they've had that relationship with the receivers, and he's been able to get a lot of work in with them. They want to work. They all want to build that chemistry, and spoke about a lot of examples of that. All very normal things, right? Like nothing that jumped out and was controversial or anything like that. But I think just made a lot of sense. And what you want to hear from a guy who is your, presumed, all things considered, however you want to say it, your starting quarterback.
Sure.
Feels relaxed, feels not too nervous about the opportunity. And I think that has to be a good sign for you and us if we're Auburn fans, and seeing a guy who's comfortable, a little bit more confident than maybe he was toward the end of his last spot, and going into this year. I think that we'll get into what Coach said in a minute, but that's my overwhelming takeaway from this is confidence just came from this team and from the representatives of Auburn there. And I don't think that you should have not expected that, but I think that it says a lot about how it kind of leans into how everyone else has been talking about this Auburn team, despite where they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah. I think when you say confidence too, we'll clarify that this is not an arrogant situation. This is just being secure within themselves. And I think there's a word I'll bring up in a second that kind of helps explain why maybe there's just this security that they have. Not that They're going to have an amazing, undefeated season, but that they're a good team and they can go out there and play with the best of them out there in the SEC and in college football as well. What stuck out to me from Jackson Arnold was when asked, of course, he's getting asked about wide receivers, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and people like that. But he called out Horatio Fields from Wake Forest. And when I've had conversations with people in streams or out in person stuff, people will always want to talk about those too, and rightfully so. But I've also often said it's usually that guy behind the main ones that you kind of got to wait and see who's going to emerge. And I think there's a lot of candidates for Auburn that could be. Jackson Arnold feels like Horatio Fields could be one of those guys based off one of his interviews that I saw, maybe getting slept on a little bit. And if you think about a comparison, think about the guys that sometimes fall into the background when you've got bigger stars, at least in the public's eye. A Darius Slayton, look what he's doing now. A Terrell Zachary. I mean, he would just come out of nowhere and just dash the hearts of anybody. And when he was on that particular teams. So to me, Horatio Fields getting called out by Jackson Arnold was a big thing that stuck out from their particular talk.